Week 17 of the fantasy football season with championships here. Here's a few running backs I located off the wire this week. The first running back, Chris Rodriguez of the Washington Commanders. Chris Rodriguez, he's been decent in the opportunities he's gotten so far this season, even though Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was the running back majority of the season before Rodriguez stepped in a few weeks ago, and he's made the most of his opportunity. Week 11 in Miami, 15 carries, 79 yards, a catch, 6 yards. Week 13 versus Denver, 11 carries, 41 yards, a touchdown. Week 14 at the Vikings, 10 carries, 52 yards. Then week 15 he missed at the Giants, and then week 16 in a tough matchup versus a good Eagle defense. 15 carries, 63 yards, a touchdown, a catch, 6 yards. So this week a good matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys, a run defense that can't stop anyone, giving up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And Rodriguez, a physical back in between the tackles. I know he's not giving much in the passing game, but I think this could be a close game between these two teams, where the Cowboys have lost 3 in a row now after beating the Eagles and Chiefs in a 4-day span, and they're really struggling. And like I said, Rodriguez is going out there and he's playing smash mouth football, and he's out there in 71% of fantasy leagues. The next running back, Michael Carter, the Arizona Cardinals. Michael Carter, he looked good in that ball game, even though he only had 11 carries, 65 yards in the week 16 loss versus the Atlanta Falcons. And Carter, last 2 out of 4 weeks, he's had double-digit fantasy points. Is Carter. Week 13 at Tampa, 5 carries, 17 yards, 5 catches, 47 yards. Week 14 versus the Rams, 3 carries, 13 yards, 2 catches, 18 yards. Week 15 at Houston, 14 carries, 56 yards, 4 catches, 38 yards. And week 16 versus the Falcons, like I said, 11 carries, 65 yards. So week 17, a slam dunk matchup at the Cincinnati Bengals. Give up the most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And like I said, in between the tackles, Carter's looked decent. Catching the football out of the backfield, he's made things happen. And obviously with their top 3 backs out, Connor, Trey Benson, Bam Knight out for the season with all injuries. I think Michael Carter, once again this week, could go out there in a good matchup in Cincinnati and have a good ball game, and he's available right now in 58% of fantasy leagues. Next running back, Blake Corum of the Los Angeles Rams. So Blake Corum, it's been a solid season for Corum, even in a 50-50 role of late, where he's had double-digit fantasy points 4 weeks in a row. Is Corum. Week 14 in Arizona, 12 carries, 128 yards, 2 TDs, a catch, 3 yards. Week 15 versus Detroit, 11 carries, 71 yards, a touchdown. And week 16 at Seattle, 14 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown, a catch, 13 yards. He's going out there. Is Blake Corum. He's making plays, obviously, for this Los Angeles Ram team. And even on 10, 15 touches per game, he's making the most of his opportunities for this Ram team and fantasy owners. And this week, pretty good matchup at the Falcons. Give up the 14th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And Corum out there in 59% of fantasy leagues. Next running back, Emmanuel Wilson of the Green Bay Packers. Emmanuel Wilson, he's been solid this season. I know he's been the backup, obviously, for Josh Jacobs, who's having a monster season. But in games he's gotten more opportunity, he's gone out there and looked well. So in the loss in overtime at the Chicago Bears, Matt LaFleur said he went with the hot hand. It had nothing to do with Jacobs' knee, and he ended up in that one with 14 carries, 82 yards on the targets. Obviously, I don't think Josh Jacobs is 100% for this Green Bay Packer team, and Emmanuel Wilson, more than a capable running back. In a few games, we had an expanded role. Week 11 at the Giants, 11 carries, 40 yards, a touchdown, a catch, 9 yards. In week 12 versus Minnesota, 28 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, 18 yards. If Josh Jacobs is out in this game, I think Emmanuel Wilson, he could be a big-time ad for fantasy owners versus a Raven defense that gives up the 11th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. So right now, just in case Jacobs doesn't give it a go, even though LaFleur says he was good to go, he was just going with the hot hand. He's out there in 63% of fantasy leagues. Next running back, Tajay Spears of the Tennessee Titans. Tony Pollard, I know the last 3 weeks he's going out there and he's putting up good numbers, is Tony Pollard. And Tajay Spears, we know he's the passing downs back, and he can make things happen at times. And he came off his best game of the season in week 16 versus the Chiefs. Week 14 at Cleveland, 8 carries, 19 yards, 2 catches, 28 yards in that one. Week 15 at the Niners, 3 carries, 34 yards, 2 catches, 2 yards. In week 16, like I said, his biggest game of the year, even though some of it was garbage time versus the Chiefs. 13 carries, 52 yards, a touchdown, 5 catches, 53 yards. So this week, a good matchup versus New Orleans. Give up the 17th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. I know the Saints, they've improved over the last month of the season, and they actually got up to 5 wins on the year, this New Orleans Saints team. But Tajay Spears, like I said, he can make things happen out of the backfield. This could be a tightly contested ball game between these two teams. And Spears out there in 75% of fantasy leagues. Like I said, with a decent matchup next back, Audric Estime of the New Orleans Saints. Audric Estime, he took a little bit of a backseat. Obviously, his Estime to Taysom Hill in this game, where I thought Estime was going to get touches more than Taysom Hill, but Hill took majority of the touches in the backfield. We know Devin Neal, he's out for the season. Alvin Kamara, I doubt they're going to rush him back with. They're not making the playoffs. In the last few weeks for Estime, week 14, at Tampa, 3 carries, 11 yards. Week 15 versus Carolina, 3 carries, 11 yards. 3 catches, 39 yards. In week 16 versus Jets, he didn't touch the football much. Like I said, 5 carries, 19 yards, 3 catches, 17 yards. He's definitely a factor in this backfield, with Taysom Hill most likely being the leader for the remainder few games here. And Estime, he's out there in 81% of fantasy leagues. He's a big physical back in between the tackles. He's not going to do much in the passing game. But like I said, New Orleans' game plan was feeding Taysom Hill in the backfield in that one in Week 16 versus New York Jets. And Estime, he didn't do much this week. He is an ad, Estime, but not a high priority ad. Next running back, Jawad Jordan of the Houston Texans. Jawad Jordan, he stepped in as the starter in this game. We saw Woody Marks, he didn't give it a go. Where I thought Woody Marks, there was a good chance he was going to play in this game. But obviously, Jordan got a majority of the touches in that one, and 2 weeks in a row, he's looked decent as Jordan. And Nick Chubb took a back seat in the backfield this week. So week 15 versus Arizona, 15 carries, 101 yards, 2 catches, 17 yards. In week 16 versus the Raiders, a decent game, 15 carries, 53 yards, 5 catches, 17 yards. So week 17, okay matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers. Their defense is a middle of the pack unit, even though they held down a high-powered Cowboy offense only to 17 points in that ball game. Charger defense. So this week, I think that Jordan could go out there if he's going to get the opportunity again and put up viable fantasy numbers. And the final running back, I looked it off the wire this week, is Raheem Sanders of the Cleveland Browns. I know Sampson, he's the backup coming into the year, and Junkin's devastating leg injury. He's going to be out for the season and possibly some weeks into next season as well. So Sanders stepped into that game, 11 carries, 42 yards in that one once Junkins went down, and a catch for 4 yards versus the Buffalo Bills. So Dylan Sampson, he was out last week with a hand injury. We don't know if he's going to be back. Is Sampson this week for this Cleveland Brown team. But like I said, Raheem Sanders, he's more of a guy in between the tackles anyway, where Sampson, to me, was more of a third down, passing downs back. So with those factors, and obviously Junkins out for the season, someone's going to have to carry the football. And I know it's not a great matchup here, Week 17 versus Steelers. I give up 10th least amount of fantasy points to running backs on the season. But hey, if you have trouble with the running back position and need someone to step in, Sanders might be an option this week for fantasy owners. That's a few running backs I looked at off the wire for Week 17 of the fantasy football season.